All right, here we go again. Another bus, I believe 5 this past week, emptying out in New York's Port Authority bus terminal, one of the largest on the planet, I might point out. These are all those migrants from Texas. The Governor Abbott has sent here. New York Mayor Eric Adams furious about it here. But the Texas governor saying, I want you to experience what we've been experiencing in Texas, and you deal with what we're trying to deal with. But many of those migrants, by the way, are free to go where they want after this. Now, the first bus, you might recall, many of them emptied out at the Milford Plaza Hotel, famous hotel in the early days, the Lullaby of Broadway. You probably remember that, or those of a certain age. I'm sad to admit that I am of that age. That was then. This is it now. Actually, they are given a slip of paper, a return court date, but they can go where they want. All of that worries John Katko of the New York ranking Homeland Security Committee member, who is kind enough to join us now. Congressman, I was startled to hear just that part, that once they get off the bus and they're given a date, you know, to return and adjudicate all of this, they can go where they want. Do we know where they go? Is there any tracking of them or where they go?
No, that's the problem, Neil. If they are tracked, they're tracked temporarily. They're given a piece of paper and they said within 6 months or a year, you got to call into this number and check in with us. And the amount of people that are actually checking in is very low, as you might imagine. But they're given this piece of paper because they're here illegally. Let's not forget that. And they're here because they have asylum claims, quote unquote asylum claims, and then they have an asylum hearing at some point down the road. The problem is the system is so overwhelmed with asylum claims that the backup is years and years and years. So these people get lost in the window and they have no idea where the heck they are. And a lot of these people are working for the Mexican cartels to work off the debt they owe them for the crossing, because you can't cross from Mexico into the U.S. without paying the cartels at least 10 grand. And so they're making billions of dollars a month, and these people owe them money. So in effect, they're working to pay off the debt to the cartels, which is crazy.
So if you can just educate me on the process here, Congressman, you get through the border, let's say at Texas or Arizona, any one of these other states. You have to be processed. So they take you to some of these facilities. Oftentimes they're detention facilities or the rest, but many other times, in fact, far more often, I'm told, to sites much further north and to states and cities like New York, et cetera. Then they're given that piece of paper. But does that mean then this controversy earlier in the week where federal officials had opened a gate that Texas National Guardsmen had closed, are inviting more of this by keeping it open at certain entry points so that these individuals indeed can be processed in the United States and can take a bus pretty much anywhere?
Yeah, Neil, there's no question about it. And you know what, that video of the Texas National Guard trying to secure the border and the Customs and Border Patrol acting under the orders from the president and administration basically had to go open up that border, open up that gate and let them all in, because
now there are gates like that all across the border. I don't know how many, Congressman, but
right.
the national law says you got to keep them open because that's an entry point. Now, if I'm trying to get entry into this country, I'm going to go for those open gates, aren't I?
Yeah, but that wasn't an entry point. That was someone's private property. So that's what was
so
really
what
amazing.
gave the government the right to close that gate after Texas National Guardsmen, or to open it after the Guardsmen had closed it?
That's a darn good question. That's something when we take over the House in January, we're going to figure out. But you can bet no matter what, the cartels took that video and are now advertising on Instagram and TikTok and all these other mediums to get more people to come across because they're making so much money off it. That's the insanity of what's going on at the southern border. And you overlay with that the one-year anniversary of what happened in Afghanistan and the fact that we have 66 people on the terror watch list seized at the border this year alone, which stands to reason at least that many got through. And that is a 5-time increase over the last 5 years combined, or a 2-time increase over the last 5 years combined, the number of people seized at the border. So the bad guys looking at the southern border, seeing how porous it is, seeing how lax our standards are, and they are exploiting it to get into this country. And we've seen a plot against former President Bush to kill him with illegal aliens on the border. We saw a plot by 2 illegal aliens to constitute a mass casualty event on July 4th. So this is real. And what they're doing is creating a ticking time bomb that is going to have long-term implications, far past the 108,000 people who died this year of a drug overdose.
No, you're quite right about that.
What?
What I guess I find far more startling this week is that gate video more than anything else. I get the busing, that's big. I don't want to minimize it, and sharing sort of the problems here that the Texas governor has had. But that gate issue on private property and the federal government deciding to open what obviously the private owner wanted closed and the Texas National Guardsmen wanted closed. That's a big deal because that seems to be telegraphing to migrants and those with far more, evil intentions that these are the entry points. And if you can get there, you're safe here.
You're most certainly right. And the coyotes, the ones working for the cartels across these people, they know where the pressure points are and they know where the easy points are. Every place now is getting easy to come across. And just so you know the process, those people came across, they got through that gate. They were processed. They were sent to what's called non-government organizations that get millions and billions from the U.S. Those NGOs then put them all over the country, and we can't get information from the NGOs as to where they're going because they're private entities. It's like a money laundering operation, for God's sakes. That's what's really hard. It's hard for us to conduct oversight because they're not telling us where they're sending them.
It's just amazing. Congressman, thank you very, very much. We always reach out to the administration on this or anyone on Homeland Security to update us on this. We never hear back, but we keep trying because we have phones that work. We can make the call, and then it's up to them to return the call. Oftentimes, actually, all the time they don't. But this is a big issue. It's not a left or right issue, not a conservative liberal issue. It's a very big issue.